that the question is letting the public see it, and there have been 10 or 15 movies
trying to shave off all imagery, pretensions of poetry, illusions of grandeur. I call a la Dylan-esque, you know. I didn't want any of that. Just say what it is, simple English, make it rhyme and put a backbeat on it and express yourself as simply, as straightforwardly as possible.
It's not that deep,
Wow. Put your microphone.
Good guys dressed in black, remember that, just in case we ever face to face and make contact. The title held by me, MIB, means what you think you saw, you did not see. So don't play big, what was dead is now gone. Black suit with the black Ray-Bans on, walk in shadow, move in silence, guard against extraterrestrial violence. But yo, we ain't on no government list, we straight don't exist, no names and no fingerprints. So some strange watch your back, but you never quite know where the MIBs is at.
And here we go.
Happy Halloween.
It's not even Halloween yet.
Yeah, but this will be the Halloween episode.
Right.
So, happy Halloween.
Halloween.
Everybody. Yes, indeed. This is another episode of It's Not That Deep. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Me and Martin have just watched Barry Sonnenfeld's 1999, 98 film.
Wasn't this directed by Steven Spielberg?
We're going to get into that. No,
All
it
right.
wasn't directed by Steven Spielberg. It was produced by Steven Spielberg. But the film in question is The Men in Black, one of my favourite films. I've not actually seen it in a while. It was great. But Martin has seen it before, but many years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I didn't remember the plot or nothing till I've seen it now, obviously.
So it's a pretty well-watched film, so I'm quite comfortable talking about, you know, like the whole plot and everything. If you've not seen it, just go out and watch it before you listen to this, because it's well worth your time.
Before you ask me, what did you think of the film? Let's do a switcheroo.
A switcheroo? Right. I love that film.
Why?
I guess I'll talk about why I loved it when I first saw it when I was a kid. To make a long story short, it's the scope and scale of the film that I enjoy, Martin. Like, the way it looks, the kind of, the grandness of it all, like the crazy space, let me articulate it. I love a lot about this film. I love
You love a lot.
the space shots. And
They're quite cool.
Yeah, and it's quite good for its time, you know, 90s CGI and everything. I love it for its set, like the design of everything and props, and the design of the set is crazy. Like that shot when Ager, Bugman, is wheeling the flying saucer into the truck on the ranch. That's a crazy shot.
Why?
It's just framed ridiculously. It looks like a Bugs Bunny cartoon where he's doing something, you know what I mean? Like it looks...
Doing something dumb, because you know he's not going to fit at the back of that truck.
Yeah, exactly.
But somehow it does.
There's just loads of crazy angles and just shots in this film that are mad. Like, whenever they walk into the Men in Black building, it's always this massive shot of that building, then they walk into that room and there's that fan, And that,
Them two fans, yeah.
yeah, and that dude sat there, like, I always remembered that as a kid. It, like, made an impression on me. And then the special effects, well, not special effects, like the costumes for the aliens, which are all done by a man called Rick Baker, who's famous for the Thriller video, American Werewolf in London, the Star Wars, everything in Star Wars that you see.
Oh.
It's all like Rick Baker. He's like the man for
Costumes.
those kind of, you know, in the Men in Black office, all the aliens, that's all Rick Baker. And they're all like real. None of it's like CGI. That's his like whole deal.
So in 2, 3, and 4, are they
All Rick Baker, even the new one.
even the new one?
I think, like Spielberg, I don't think is in. Right, I could be dead wrong about this. No, it's Barry. It's the director Barry Sonnenfeld that's not involved in the new one. Spielberg is involved, and I think Rick Baker's involved. Although he's kind of retired now, but he like oversees things. He's got a Joe Rogan. Rick Baker has. It's well worth listening to. It's quite
What do they
recent.
talk about?
His career, because he's like, you will have seen so many films that feature his costumes. Right, the list is endless. But you don't really
Long list.
yeah, like you don't really see. It's a dying craft what he does, because it's all getting replaced with like CGI
CGI, yeah.
and stuff like that. So that's always a joy to see. And then
It's gonna soon become classic too.
yeah, definitely
costumes.
that whole vibe will die with Rick Baker basically. But then I think I'm right in saying that a man called Bo Welch also did a lot of the production design and set design for this film. And he's directed one film in his life, and it's the Mike Myers version of The Cat in the Hat, which is a very controversial. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Oh my God, we're watching that one day.
What? Cat in the Hat?
Yeah, Cat in the Hat, but Mike Myers. I don't know. Do you know who Mike Myers is?
Isn't
Austin
it-
Powers. Yeah. Well,
No.
There's still be a real treat for you, Martin, but
I feel like
it's
Mike
up-
Myers is a killer of some sort. Oh,
yeah, you're
who
thinking of
played-
Michael Myers. He's
Michael.
isn't that Freddy?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. Let's not get bogged down in this.
I'm not sure,
I
to
don't-
be honest.
Mike Myers is an actor who plays many roles, well-known roles. One of them being Austin Powers is the one that you've probably heard of.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2004, Bo Welch directed a live-action Cat in the Hat film. I don't know if you're aware of the Cat in the Hat.
Yeah, that guy with the stripe.
You've seen you've seen the Cat in the Hat, so you know the style of how he's drawn.
Yeah.
Well, that's like Dr. Seuss, who wrote those and drew those books. All his books are in that same style. It's very unique to the books. Bo Welch attempted to bring that world alive in live action. Now, the film gets absolutely rinsed for Mike Myers' just
Performance.
it's very modern. It's very early 2000s. Have you seen the Scooby-Doo live action film?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
Similar to
What, with Scooby-Doo?
Well, in the sense that if you watch a Scooby-Doo cartoon, it's quite like traditional comedy. Whereas the live-action Scooby-Doo, they're like referencing weed, and there's like all these punk songs, skateboard culture in the film, and people don't like it for that. But that Scooby-Doo film was actually made by the guy James Gunn, who does Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Which is funny. But the Cat in the Hat film was done by Bo Welch, and the world itself that's in that Cat in the Hat film is incredible.
And it's all done by him?
Well, he directed the film and he did the set design. He was involved in the aesthetics of this film and all of the Men in Blacks. And that new series of Unfortunate Events series that came out on Netflix. He did some episodes of that, which also has mental set design. So
They all look very
Rick Baker, Bo Welch, I rate their efforts in this film.
gracious.
I actually like Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. You know, like their two characters, J and K, and they have a great back and forth. He's like hard.
I even forgot that he got
neuralized.
Yeah, because I remember that on 3.
Have you seen 2 and 3?
I don't remember 2, but I swear on 3 they like go back to save him.
That's 2.
Is that 2?
Oh no, 3. Well, yeah, I don't want to ruin 2 in case we watch 2, but they kind of go back to save him in both. You could say.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I'm down to watch
2 and 3.
2 and 3 as
and
well.
And then the new one, International, it's called Men in Black International.
Is it?
Yeah. You asked me at the beginning, or you mentioned Steven Spielberg.
Right, yes.
Who is involved in this film as a producer. And if you look at the films that Steven Spielberg has produced, in my opinion, it's actually far more interesting than the films he's directed.
Why did you say that?
Because a producer can mean like a whole lot of different things on a film. It can mean someone that like has a lot of money and is like interested.
Investing.
Yeah, just treating it as an investment sort of thing. And like they have a mild...
Not a project.
Well, they just kind of have a mild understanding of what it's about and agree with it and see it as a good investment opportunity. Mm-hmm. Or it can be someone that is incredibly passionate about the film and is a producer for that reason and is like, you know what I mean? It can be just seen as an investment or it can be seen as a passion piece. And some films have like 8 or 9 producers. And then there's executive producers that they play that same role, but they're just less involved in the film. Again, and it's just more an investment.
Yeah, than
a
project.
But when Steven Spielberg produces a film, it basically means that like he wants to do it for a reason because it like falls in line with the rest of his work. And like if you look at his filmography as a whole, like directorial roles and producer roles, there is like there's like beats that he plays to. There's things that he likes. Mm-hmm. He likes.
Does he ever put anything in film that he produces and directs that are sort of like similar? They maybe a hidden Easter egg into a film that he's producing instead of directing.
What, that reference like maybe his directing films or something like that? Normally, he has a company called Amblin or Amblin. Amblin, and that is the name of his first ever film, number 1. Number 2, it kind of means just like going for a walk, you know, just ambling about. That's the name of his company, and normally you'll see like the Amblin logo at the beginning of all the films he produces, because and like Medal of Honor, that game series, that's an Amblin production.
Is it?
Yeah. Again, that first Medal of Honor game on the PS1, Steven Spielberg was like incredibly involved in the making of it, from like idea to release. Then he kind of like let the series go and be its own thing and was less and less involved, but it was this thing that he gave the idea for and the heart of it. And there's loads of projects like that. An example would be Shrek. That is a project that is produced by Steven Spielberg, but directed by someone else. And then there's DreamWorks as well, is like owned by Steven Spielberg.
DreamWorks?
Yeah. Or I could be like wrong about the business of that, but there's definitely like what's the word, synergy between Amblin and DreamWorks. And that opens it up to a whole other thing. But then Shrek, DreamWorks was set up as... DreamWorks is known as like the rival to Pixar. You know, they make animated films in the same way Pixar do. And it's... Do you know of a film called Ants?
The insect?
No, it's Brogan behind us. He knows all about ants. But it's a film that was released in the late 90s. It's about ants. But Pixar at the time were releasing a film called Bug's Life. You probably heard of that.
Oh, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
I think I've told you about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Before. Yeah, where somebody left Pixar It's like Ants was made as a retaliation to Pixar making Bugs Life. They were being made at like exactly the same time, and it's incredibly like coincidental that those two ideas, you know what I mean, appeared at the same time. And I think that's like the first ever DreamWorks film. Ants. Yeah, so everyone at Pixar's like, fuck DreamWorks. Like, you know what I mean, from like an instant. But then...
Were there any
Pixar...
lawsuits or...
Well, yeah, there was like a whole thing. And what ended up happening is... Because Pixar's Disney, that's got the whole... Pixar's its own thing, and they have their own films that began with Toy Story. But then obviously Disney's its wider thing that began with Snow White back in like the 40s. So that's like a massive company that's affected culture and like everyone knows it. So then DreamWorks does its thing, and its first film is pretty much like a alleged Pixar rip-off sort of thing stolen from them. And then the second film they make is Shrek, which is a film about an angry ogre being very angry at all the fairy tale creatures being in his swamp.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. And then they go to the head of where all the fairy tales come from, and there's this man called Lord Farquaad, which I don't actually subscribe to this, but a lot of people think it's like a twist on the term fuckwad. But nevertheless, they are completely making fun of Disneyland and the whole thing. Like, think when Shrek turns up to Do-Lock, where Lord Farquaad lives. Dun, 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 welcome to Do-Lock. And there's like all the people wearing costumes, and it's a complete piss take of the whole thing.
Just like Disney.
That's like why DreamWorks exists, basically. So my point is that the things that Steven Spielberg produces, he like puts his heart and soul into. He does it all like it's another string to his bow. He's expanding his
repertoire.
Yeah, definitely.
But back to Men in Black.
And Men in Black is one of those efforts where he has done so. And it just continues as, you know, anyone that listened to our Close Encounters of the Third Kind episode will remember me talking about Steven Spielberg's fascination with, like, aliens, ufology, UFOs, any of that sort of stuff. And this film's actually, like, again, it's done its research. There's loads of little things in it that are, like, as you asked me, the original question, are there Easter eggs in the films and stuff like that? Yeah, this film's, like, chock full of them. We should probably talk about, like, Men in Black. What is that?
What do you mean, what is that? It's just a movie.
Nah. So, the term Men in Black would refer to, I don't know,
Men in Black.
Men that wear black. No.
That's right.
Well, yeah, definitely. It does refer to that. But it refers to government agents, conspicuous government agents that visit people that have had paranormal and supernatural experiences and tell them to keep quiet about it. And they're often...
But do you think that's what's actually happening?
Well, the first instance, Martin, of the Men in Black being spoken about in this sense would be connected to the first time the term flying saucer was ever used, which is quite interesting that they come together, sort of thing. The first time we ever heard the term flying saucer is Kenneth Arnold in 1945, 46 or 47, one of those 3 years, I promise you. And he was a pilot that saw 6 things flying in a V-shaped formation near a mountain called Mount Rainier whilst he was flying a plane.
Was it raining?
No, Rainier.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Oh, was it Rainier? I thought you were talking about the name of the mountain. I don't know the weather conditions.
Okay.
I cannot comment on that. But what I can say is then he reported this to the press, and they asked him what it looked like, and he said it looked like if you were to throw a saucer on water and it would skim, you know, like a plate on water. And that's kind of where the term flying saucer comes from. Then 2 other men appear on the scene, one called Harold Dahl and another called Fred Chrisman. And those 2 men say that they saw the same thing near where Mount Rainier is. And it's pretty mad because apparently they saw one of the objects stop and it looks like it's hovering and it's broken and it's dripping this weird liquid that lands on Harold Dahl's dog and kills it, like in front of him. And they're on a boat at the time when this happens. And the other things are like hovering around this thing and it's like, and then they fly off. And this all sounds like absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
It sounds, like crazy talk. It's significant because the term flying saucer is used for the first time, but other than that, it's just the ravings of 3 lunatics. But then there's just some weird things about it, Martin.
It could have happened. Somebody tried to cover it up.
Well, then 2 men, Fred Chrisman and Harold Dahl, claim that men visited them after they went to the press with this story about the dog. So it's like Kenneth Arnold sees this thing, that makes the paper. Harold Dahl, Fred Chrisman then speak to the press and say, we saw the same thing. Tell the dog story. And then these men turn up at their house and individual houses and speak to them and say, you're never ever going to talk about this anymore, and like threaten them. And the way they get spoken about is like, it's quite funny. It's like they refer to them as, it's like aliens were trying to be humans. Like they're wearing suits and they pull up, very much like in the film, like in the car with the sunglasses and everything, but their skin's like white and things are just off.
Yeah.
Basically. That's just
they're not proper humans.
Well, yeah, there's just something unspecifically unsettling about them. And that begins, so it's mad, like right there on the first case, you've got like all the tropes that end up in this film and that we come to know. It all happens like in the space of a week in the 1950s.
Well, that's an hour. In galactic time.
In galactic standard time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then that's like the most credible bit of the whole UFO kind of world right there. Like that's a bit of like real interesting information there. Then what? Just another side note, that Fred Chrisman character, once you get looking, if you ever look into the conspiracy surrounding the assassination of JFK, you'll come to find the term grassy knoll. Now, what grassy knoll refers to...
I heard that before.
Yeah, I'll explain. The bullet, Lee Harvey Oswald was meant to have shot from a book depository out a window. That's where the bullet was meant to have come from. But then there's this spot. If you watch, that was the official story, that Lee Harvey Oswald shot from the book depository. Then this dude called Zapora, I've never said that out loud, I've only ever seen that written down. He released footage of the assassination where you see his head explode and everything. And his head, you see him get shot twice. There's like a back and forth movement, basically.
Really?
Yeah, or like back and to the left is what they say. It like back and then to the left because there's multiple bullets like hitting him and stuff like that.
So you guys like that or like that?
Yeah, you can watch it if you want. It's brutal stuff. But it would imply that one of the bullets came from
a different direction.
Yeah, his right, which is this area, Daily Plaza, where that incident happened, is like probably one of the most mapped out areas in the world because of everyone trying to decipher this assassination. It's been analysed from every angle. It's only like it's a park that he was driving. Well, it's like a plaza, if you can imagine such a thing.
So like
grassy areas, road running through the middle of it, kind of a public
if you've
space.
Seen The Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, where?
Season 2.
I've not seen season 2.
Never mind then.
I'm sorry.
Don't want to ruin it for you.
Yeah, don't do
It's
that.
a good story.
But Daily Plaza, there's this area over to the right that is like a little hill where there's a fence, and that would be the grassy knoll. That'll be where that bullet came from. On the day of JFK's assassination, there's a pretty famous picture of 3 men near that area being led off by a policeman. And these 3 men are referred to as the 3 tramps. Okay? Mm-hmm. And they are like these mysterious figures that are the other shooters, I suppose, to a lot of people. One of these men is 100% Fred Chrisman. In the famous 3 tramp picture. There is 15 years separating the Kenneth Arnold event and the JFK assassination. How mental is it that this dude pops up at both those events? And Fred Chrisman is 100% in court for the JFK thing. He's like it's not just this picture where it could be Fred Chrisman. He turns up in court 100%. So he's involved in the JFK assassination and the beginning of the Men in Black idea and the first ever term of the use flying saucer. And in the JFK trial, there's the man called Clay Shaw that the whole JFK thing got pegged on. It's very complicated. But it
seems very suspicious.
It was like a group of people that did the JFK.
So they did the...
Well, at the JFK trial, it came out that he was working for like a government agency. Or he was accused of working for a government agency, which he denied. Which would make a lot more sense why he turns up at all these weird events over the period of time.
So, did that flying saucer thing that killed that guy's dog, that was one of them 3 men was the one that was seen at the JFK?
Yeah.
So, did that happen before that, or was it after that?
So, the UFO event was like... I've got it open as a tab, actually. 1947, June 21st.
That's when, the flying saucer happened.
And JFK was in 1963. That's like a significant period of time.
17 years.
That is like a significant period of time, and it's mad that he like pops up at both those things as a significant player. It's not just like a dude watching the JFK assassination. Yeah. He's like very involved.
Yeah.
So it's when you start to look at things like that, it's very easy. You know, Kenneth Arnold's initial tale of, I saw flying saucers in the sky, and then people start thinking of aliens and all sorts of weird stuff. But it could be something like completely... Obviously, 1947's a significant year if we're talking about UFOs, because that's when the Roswell thing happened.
Which is?
You don't know about Roswell? Well, that's like the big UFO thing that everyone knows about. Like, that's any time you've heard of a UFO landing in the desert, that's because of Roswell.
Okay.
And that was... Roswell's bigger than the Kenneth Arnold thing, but... The Kenneth Arnold thing's so much more interesting. It's almost like Roswell.
Maybe he was there as well, but we just didn't see him.
Hang on, I'm just going to see if Roswell
was
before Maury Island and Kenneth Arnold. Because if it's after, then it's almost like Roswell happens to draw attraction away from Kenneth Arnold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the Roswell thing's like it's a military situation. Mm-hmm. It's not like civilians dealing with it. So July. This is mad. It's all like on the same week, Martin. Roswell, Kenneth Arnold. It's like the events. It's like July 6th to June 21st. So Kenneth Arnold, Maury Island happens first. Fred Chrisman and the dog, that happens first. Then 3 weeks later, Roswell happens.
But what is Roswell?
So Roswell, is you've got a man that owns a ranch in Roswell, New Mexico. And he says he hears a loud explosion out in the desert. And he goes out to look, and there's bodies and there's metal everywhere. The military turn up, take it all away. That rancher, his name is Mac Brazal or something like that. I've seen interviews with him. It seems like he has been like handled since that event, like by the military and government.
Yeah.
Basically.
Different authority.
Well, there's like no credible information on the man. Very quiet sort of thing.
They deleted all his information.
Well, no, he exists
He became
and stuff.
a man in
but
black.
you just think people, when they have these events, normally write books and like go, you know what I mean? Try and sell it. But he's one of those very quiet ones. And there's rumours of him having pieces of the wreckage and stuff like that.
There's 100%.
And he's just really quiet about it.
Yeah.
And he's like chill about it. But that's a whole thing. But then...
So he saw bodies
of
humans, or was it...
Okay, so the military the next day post the headlines on the paper, and you can buy this paper of the Roswell paper from the day afterwards, and it says flying saucer found. Massive letters. It's like this big deal. The next day's paper says weather balloon found. Flying saucer, not, flying saucer.
It wasn't a flying saucer, it was a balloon.
Yeah, and there's a dude from the army called Jesse Marcel, who again, Jesse Marcel's a bit different. If he's done loads of interviews, and there's a very famous picture of him holding a load of like weather balloon material, like tin foil looking like material. But then he's gone on to, I don't think he's alive now, but he lived well into the 2000s, and this happened in 47. So he's like old by then. But he was way into like the UFO game, and was talking about seeing metal that could bend like tissue paper, but then snap back, and you couldn't rip it and stuff like that. And yeah, and he said like the military didn't know what was going on, and they were like panicking, so they had to like cover the whole thing up. You talk about bodies, loads of people. Roswell's just like the biggest one, like everyone knows about. That's just like, if a game's got an Easter egg about UFOs, it's going to be about Roswell. I've never thought about the fact that all this UFO activity happens in like 1 week in 1947.
1947. So the alien shit happened, then 3 weeks later,
Roswell happens. And
so more of them came.
Well, the idea about Roswell, 1947's like significant, I suppose, because it's this weird period of time where World War II's over, but they've not Right, now I'm going to look at when the CIA was invented, okay?
When was it formed?
And what you're going to find is it was found on September 18th, 1947, mine. So, like, in 3 months, you see what you see? Like, how they're moving. All these things are happening. People's dogs are being killed. Things are leaking things from the sky.
Real quick, basically. It's happening real quick.
Things are moving. It's quite panicky. You know what I mean? Like,
but they contained it quite well to not have it go out of control. If it.
Well, someone seems to be doing something.
Yeah.
We're not. I'm not seeing UFOs in the sky. I've never seen a UFO. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So something's going on where, I don't know, it's being suppressed. But there you go. All within the space of a month. No, 2 months. You get the invention of the word flying saucer, the invention of the idea of government. So the idea of government agents exists pre-CIA. Coming to and speaking to Fred Chrisman and Harold Dahl. I'm just thinking, I know reams about 1947. I could make a film about 1947. Definitely.
So you think this movie was based on that?
Yeah. Well, there's loads of references to... I was just thinking of how we're going to get back to Men in Black from here, which is easily done. When when Will Smith has fired his weapon off at the bug who's driving the truck down the street, and Kay says to him, "We don't fire our weapons in public. There's a reason that we act like we act, so these people can go about their day." Will Smith then walks over to the van and they're all looking at the flying saucer inside, and he says, "Oh, some swamp gas reflected off of Venus."
Yeah.
Now that quote just there relates directly to this whole saga of what was going on, because the events of the summer of 1947 led to the government setting up their first public UFO investigations, and it would go Project Grudge, Project Sign, Project Blue Book, and then they'd close it in the 60s, saying that they were of no threat to the public, and that was like the end of the matter. That would be the end of this saga, basically, where 40s, all this crazy stuff happens, and then by the 60s they've kind of set up this public relations office and dismissed it all. But the man who ran those projects was called J. Allen Hynek, and he's known as the man who said UFOs didn't exist, but he never said that wasn't his deal. He just said that like 90% of the claims are nonsense. There's a very unexplainable 10% that he, believed in and maintained, but he dealt mostly with absolute nonsense. To which he invented the term. He said, I don't know if it was about Roswell, but it was about a UFO case in the 1940s or 50s, that it was swamp gas reflecting off of Venus. A very... Apparently that's it.
So they looked this up, and
so
they did their research.
This is what I mean when I say the film's done its research, is like, you can feel Spielberg's touch on it. And, if you listen to our Close Encounters of the Third Kind episode, I completely lay out Steven Spielberg's like relationship with very real events of ufology. Like, he's not interested in like nonsense. He puts the well-documented events into his films.
Mm-hmm.
Medal of Honor. There's loads of stuff about like the Germans and their dealings with the UFO thing. I have Steven Spielberg to thank for being aware of a lot of this stuff, because he puts these rabbit holes in his films that you can like be aware of if you're paying attention.
Look into it. And look into it.
Yeah, it is that deep with Mr. Spielberg. Sometimes it's
very deep. It's deeper than we've ever gone before.
Yeah, but then there's bits in this film that I like on a real basic level, like the two dudes on the bike covered in bulbs. You notice them? There's a bit when he walks, Will Smith walks out the shop. It's just before he gets neuralized for the first time. And he's blown that dude Jeeves' head off. And they step outside, and Will Smith steps out first, and he's taking a look around, and he's kind of taking in the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the events of the evening, and Kay walks out and says, finding a moment to assess what's happened. He says it better than that, but he says something to that effect. And two guys ride past, and they're wearing completely black morph suits with light bulbs all over it on a tandem bike. And it's just something that like the camera pays attention to, and they watch them go down the street. And they're in every Men in Black film, and it's never explained. It's great.
What could it be?
Well, I think I have seen the director talk about it, where he's like...
I didn't even notice it, to be honest.
Yeah. This one, they don't dwell on it too much. It's not like... They don't make too much of a big deal about it. It's quite a quick shot. But I think I've seen the director say that it is just one of those things where it's like, I just like the look of it.
So he puts it in every film.
Well, it's a bit David Lynch, isn't it? Like, I just like the feel of it, sort of thing. So it ended up in the film. But what did you think of the film?
It was great.
You enjoyed it?
I did enjoy it, yeah. It's had some funny bits.
It is a funny film.
Yeah. I mean, just Will Smith's character just constantly saying bullshit. Like, it's all bullshit. I'm like...
Will Smith and Alien films is hilarious. Like, we speak about this all the time, but we watched Independence Day ones together, and I'd never seen it, and I was flabbergasted. Like, there's this whole build-up to seeing the aliens in that film. It takes like an hour before you see one, and he just opens at the door of the ship, pulls the alien out and goes, "Welcome to America, bitch," and punches it in the face. I couldn't believe it.
He's always in
It's similar in this film.
some good films. He's always in some good alien films. He's always like...
Him and his family, like him and Jaden, have an active interest in spiritual matters. It's obvious.
what was that film that they made?
The Pursuit of Happiness.
No.
£7.
Nope.
After Earth.
That one.
Why do I know this many Jaden Smith, Will Smith films?
I don't know.
I've not seen it.
Have you not seen it?
No. We were gonna see it when it came out. I remember that being in the cinemas. But I saw it had awful reviews, so I didn't go.
I've seen it.
Is it good? You enjoyed it?
I enjoyed it.
I
Wasn't
think
too bad.
the critics have just turned against Will Smith these days. It might be good. People don't like...
But they don't understand.
Well, Will Smith's character's pretty timeless. Like, he is just himself in all films, which is great, I think, because he's a good guy. Well, just he portrays himself as a good guy. He's kind of sassy and provocative, but then still good-moraled and a good person, is how he comes across in all his films, sort of thing.
Obviously, we don't know him personally.
I don't know him personally, but you take note of how someone portrays themselves, especially in this world of social media, Martin, where we have many different, avenues to view someone's life and see what they choose to show us. But then looking at Jaden's like music career as well, it's like, oh, he's well into like some of the more far out stuff.
Ideas.
Yeah, definitely. Jaden's really far reaching. So then you can just see, well, he's probably got that from his dad to an extent, because the films that Will has chosen to be part of are pretty like of a good moral fibre, in my opinion. They're all like showing people, they're either showing humans being confronted with things that are hard to deal with and then going through hard times and like the strength of humanity. And that's why I think these...
a lot of his films are quite like nurturing.
Yeah, I really... It sounds dumb, but like, actors have careers and they spend their whole lives like choosing projects to be a part of, and millions of pounds go into the production of things like this. You may as well make it something that's good for people, because you see what happens to culture when we do things that only whip up
discuss
mindless behaviour.
What does happen? Why don't you tell the world?
And we just get delinquency, which isn't good.
Riots.
Well, no, just things that don't further the betterment of mankind. And a man like Will Smith seems to have that in mind somewhat in his creative output.
Do you think that's him? Or do you think that's...
Well, I think the people that I've mentioned, Rick Baker, Bo Welch, the director Barry Sonnenfeld and Steven Spielberg, Will Smith, you can see like a shared line of thought between those people's ideology if you go and look at their careers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that, I don't know, that's what I look for these days, is like that shared point of view creatively. And it's like, you can feel it in the film. Like every part of this film works really well together. From the set design to the plot to the way the two actors work, it looked like it was a joy to be on, sort of thing. And in fact, I just remembered something that can completely back up my whole shit.
All right.
Will Smith didn't want to do this film because he'd just done Independence Day, and he didn't want to become known as the alien dude.
Right.
And Steven Spielberg rang him and had a personal one-on-one conversation with him where he was like, you should do this film because, like, it's important, man. With, like, laying out what the Men in Black are. They're this, like, before this film, they were seen as like this bad, maybe evil thing, and who knows what they are. But this film completely shifted the image of what people know. People think Men in Black, they think Will Smith now. They don't know anything about Fred Chrisman and Kenneth Arnold and Harold Dahl, you know what I mean?
What do you think that Steven Spielberg had some knowledge of this before going into making this film? And thought, okay, we'll make it so ridiculous that people will think it's a film, but it could be true.
Spielberg made a series 2 years after this film called Taken. It was a mini-series. It's like 7-8 episodes, an hour long each. It was only released... It was at small time. It was on television, Sci-Fi channel, I think.
Right.
When it first came out. It's quite hard to find. It's called Taken. And each episode addresses a different specific UFO case. Be it, well, they're like fictionalized versions. I think one of them is like Roswell. And it has, I think the only actor that I know in it is Dakota Fanning. And she's like really young in it. And if you watch that, and then it's like, yeah, Spielberg has loads of know-how about this topic. Like, it's obvious. Like, he's literally like showing. You can go, if you go on Wikipedia, you know, we live in this world where we like don't think UFOs exist, but if you go on Wikipedia and type in UFO, you're going to find a big list of like reported cases. And from there, you can click on each of those cases and, you know, you'll find things like Jesse Marcel holding the tinfoil that makes the whole thing look very silly. But then finding out Fred Chrisman and things like that make you... you start to view the thing a bit differently and stop looking at it as little green men with ray guns and looking at it more as like a government thing.
What do you think about the tinfoil hats?
I don't know where that came from. Isn't the idea behind tinfoil hats is that they stop evil forces coming into your head?
Yeah, like...
I mean, that's just great, like...
Thought waves, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, to me, all that stuff happening in 1947 is a lot more credible than the idea of having to wear a tinfoil hat all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's credible stuff. What did you ask me about Men in Black? Steven Spielberg had prior knowledge of the UFO phenomenon before making the film. The first film he ever made was called Firelight.
I thought you said it was Amblin.
Right. Amblin was the first full feature film he made. Like, done, finished, and was, like, on television.
Okay.
I think. Firelight was, like, what we do with Soups Up. That sort of film. Short film. I don't think the whole thing's ever been seen. But it's about an event very much like you may find if you type in UFO on Wikipedia, an unspecific UFO event in California. And that's it. He was 14, 15.
When he made that?
Yeah, young, really young. When he first made it. He's like, this is why he's like the great, because he's like been interested in this since he was like very young, and he was making films on tape.
Well, yeah.
Let's see when Firelight was released. It won't be many years after 47. Firelight, not 64. Yeah, 1964, and he was 17. It was made for $500.
$500 back then, I bet it was.
A little bit more, but I don't think, like here, it says he counted the receipts on the night that they showed it to people. So yeah, obviously...
Did he make a lot of it?
It said he made $1 profit.
So $501?
Apparently so. Which is not a bad return for your first project.
No, at least you got your money back and then a bit of profit.
Yeah, so... But it just shows that he's been into this since, like... That's the reason he got into filmmaking, man. So it's obviously very close to his heart. And then you've got, you know, Close Encounters and E.T., and that's all before Men in Black. So
Holy Mountain.
Steven Spielberg had no involvement in the making of the Holy Mountain.
It's just all weird.
All of Spielberg's stuff is pretty family friendly. You ain't going anywhere near the Holy Mountain. Like it's quite good because like the Holy Mountain will show you this. You can talk about the Holy Mountain until the cows come home and its esoteric meaning. Whereas Men in Black just gives you a few solid rabbit holes to go looking down, if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But, we'll do all of Spielberg's films eventually. And there's ones I've not seen and probably show different parts of his...
Well, if you guys haven't watched this yet, you should give it a go.
Yeah.
It's a great film.
I've loved this film since I was, when it first came out. I highly recommend you go watch it. We'll probably watch the subsequent films in the series.
I'm excited for them because I don't remember them at all. I sort of felt like I missed 2.
2 gets hate. Everyone hates 2. It's actually like the one I remember the most.
Whoa, I'll be the judge of that.
It's got Lara Flynn Boyle in it too. You got that to look forward to, man.
Who's that?
Oh, you'll see. Yeah.
I'm guessing it's a very beautiful woman.
I mean, I don't really want to get into... I shouldn't have brought it up. She's a controversial character. Had a lot of plastic surgery. Doesn't look like she looks now. She was in Twin Peaks back in the day. She's not in it anymore. It's a complicated thing.
We'll see.
It was that deep this time. It's not that deep, bro.
It was just a little bit too deep.
Look, I could go deeper.
I know you can.
When you're ready.
What do you mean? I'm ready now.
You just said it was too deep. You've inherently gone back on your statement. But let's not get bogged down in some sort of macho back and forth.
Look, I mean, the film got... It doesn't matter.
You're in the what? Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Let's move forward. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
It's not that deep.
Bro.
Bro.
You forgot the bro. You always forget it.
I said it at the beginning of the episode. People
You did.
will attest.
But you gotta say the full name.
I was gonna.
Go on.
Everybody check out the Mystery School on Reddit. MIPLTD on Instagram. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
I'm going in on them. I'm way past these chic high MCs. I'm going in. Full release gang. I'm going in on them. It's. I'm going in. Banaki, I wanna be the greatest. Scratch that, I'm gonna be the greatest. Believe it, I'm gonna be her car gate someday. Beat my haters, achieve that status. Reach my dreams and my aspirations. Unleashing the beast when I release the heat on beats. Trust me, I'll be smashing stages. Don't know already, I'll be smashing stages. I got jutsus coming in nice and hard, like 8 trigrams and 64 bars. I got bars on bars on bars on bars. Nobody out there stopping me, dog. Trust me, I do things properly, dog. Pressure can't get on top of me, dog. So unless I win big with the lottery, dog, you're gonna see a lot of me, dog. Fight or die in this world that we live in. I just pray I can say at the end of my days I hate shit for 6 and I did not give in. And Jafro had a good innings, cause recently I draw out to give in. So I prayed to the Lord, he told me go pick up a sword and don't stop swinging. Don't you dare even mention quitting. Don't you dare even mention quitting. Not whilst the hands of time still ticking. Not whilst your mind is alive and you're winning. Not whilst the fat lady still ain't singing. Not whilst your mouth's on fire from spitting. Not whilst the world around you still spinning. So can I please get a moment of silence? I'm still alive and kicking. I'm doing things that them man won't. I wanna win, them man don't. Them man are here just to hate on me, so I wanna strangle them man's throats. Like I wanna work, they wanna chill. I wanna mill, they wanna build. Them man are happy with what they've got. I want a big fat house on a hill. I'm trying to put my time to good use. Them man are trying to do what I do, but they can't replicate the jutsus. I unleash devastating jutsus. Them man are happy with playing at pubs. I wouldn't stop at festival slots. I'm out here and I'm trying to do lots. Feeling the strain of training too much. Feeling like Drake, cause I need some really nice things, and I need them coming my way. And they better be coming with no strings. Sometimes I find she keeps trying to get me down. I've had way too much happen to me to let it get me now. And when my band broke up, I had to fill my stage alone. They're telling me that I did it anyway and I could've done it on my own. But what does that matter? See, I'm just trying to do it how my God did it. When he spoke, and then he made something out of nothing, I'ma do it with lyrics. That means if I'm standing alone and I'm all on my own and a man wanna test me, then it's bunkai. Man wanna try me, then tell him come try. Nobody's backing, it's still bunkai. Man don't believe me, then you'll see me. Years from now, we'll see it was on grind. You're gonna see that I meant what I said when I told him that I'm not just on grind. It's not just the shift, it's not just the grind. I'm putting in overtime all the time. Holding my body and the soul in my mind. Spiritual thing when I say bunkai. I'm going in when I say bunkai. Length section thing when I say bunkai. It's Jafro, barging through with a big bunkai. I'm gonna wait for a bit and when I'm home, I'm gonna take my place on the throne. Move like Stormzy if man try warm. Tell my man shut up, hear this flow. Don't catch bodies, I just torture souls. Man must think that I whisper to ghosts. Cause we can say bunkai. When I say bunkai, I perform console when a man's soul different. Might come through like the blues. Don't mean Chelsea, I mean Elsie. See how they tell you that the truth hurts? Tell them man I hurt more than the truth. Tell them man I leave beats all broken. Tell them man I leave beats all bruised. Tell them man if you are and I say bunkai, you're gonna do more than lose.
So they saw that there were two opposing groups fighting each other, right? So they incorporated that, you know, to some extent in their histories and in their belief systems.